What if AI wasn't just a tool for productivity, but a portal for personal transformation? What if a story wasn't just entertainment, but the software that scripts our identity? Today on Lead with AI, I'm joined by Caryn Ward Ross, founder of Reframe Studios AI, a visionary company building what they call a cinematic identity engine. Caryn isn't just a founder. She's a filmmaker, cultural architect, and narrative futurist who spent her life inside story systems, and now she's using AI to rewire them. She's pioneering immersive, intelligent storytelling AI tools that just don't change what we watch, they change who we are. This is an episode about intelligence, reclaiming authorship, and why the most powerful algorithm you'll ever encounter might be the one running your inner story. Let's get into it. Welcome to Lead with AI. I'm Dr. Tamara Nall. In each episode, we will take you behind the scenes with visionary leaders shaping the future of AI across public and private sectors. Join us as we explore groundbreaking projects and innovations that are transforming industries and making a real impact on people's lives. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our podcast, Lead with AI. I'm Dr. Tamara Nall, and I am so excited about our guest today, Caryn Ward Ross, who is the founder of Reframe Studios AI. Caryn, how are you?
I'm exceptional. How are you?
I am doing really, really well, and I'm excited about this topic and how you're using AI to power identity. So let's get into it. And I love to start with the spark, and that is around who are you at your core? I believe that every great AI idea starts with the person and a deeper vision. So talk to me about your story. How did you come up with this idea? And, why is there a need? Why does this exist?
Mm-hmm. This exists because story and storytelling is the original code. And so at my core, I am a storyteller, not just in the Hollywood sense. And yes, I've produced, executive produced projects, starred in television shows and movies, but I think in a real identity, soul sense. So I help people rewrite the invisible scripts that have been directing their lives. And so Reframe Studios AI was born out of that. It was the moment that I realized that we could take Hollywood level storytelling, what we use to produce blockbusters, and we could rewrite human identity. I've been watching brilliant, gifted people live lives and live inside of stories that were never theirs to begin with, including my own. Just kind of constructing, rescripting, and rewriting my own limited stories around trauma, stories that our culture hands us. Someone else has given us the pen and a script to follow, and I wanted to rewrite that and give the power back. So I wanted to create a studio where we don't just consume transformation, but we are active agents in co-creating.
Mm-hmm. And is this the same as branding, or is it something totally different?
I mean, I guess you could look at it as branding of the self, but a deeper layer, a deeper cut. I think it lives at the intersection of narrative psychology and cinematic storytelling. So I like to tell people that if you had a hybrid between a therapist, a screenwriter, and a manifestation coach, that's what I call cinematic intelligence, wrapped around in this sophisticated artificial intelligence, which for me, AI stands for activated identity. And so that's what it is. It's about people stepping into the lead role of who they were meant to be before the world told them who they should be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you had just mentioned, I mean, you have a remarkable history, The Game, Lincoln Heights, The Parkers, The Bernie Mac Show, and it goes on and on and on. Talk to me about your personal story and how you had to portray, an identity that was not your own.
Yeah, so being a child actor, starting off on the television series Fame, where Debbie Allen, the Debbie Allen,
Yes.
gave me my first legacy prompt. she had me choreograph an episode of Fame, and I was 8 years old at the time. So I'm a mom, professional dancers, and it's 8-year-old me saying, how am I going to do this? And she said, Caryn, I didn't give this to you because you're ready. I gave it to you because you are called. And so that calling, that prompting is what I've been living inside of, and had wonderful experiences, as you mentioned, doing television shows and commercials at that time. But what I found is that I got very adept at playing other people's roles and saying those lines. But when it came to standing in the authenticity of who I was challenged by that. So I took a dark turn, and my identity was so outward facing. It was so given to me by the lights and the camera. So if I wasn't on set and if I wasn't acting, then I was meaningless. And a lot of people feel that way. We're so wrapped into our titles, to our bank accounts, to our relationships. So when that shifts, then so do we. So I had to really begin to do some soul searching and cultivate, who do I declare myself to be, independent of what the world is saying is possible. And so that's an ongoing journey, but that's where I live, and that's where I coach and support other people in rewriting the scripts that were handed to them so that they can step more powerfully in who they were designed to be.
Wow, that is so beautiful. That is absolutely, and it kind of then, segues into my next question is, obviously you're helping people, your AI product is helping people figure out their real identities and not who people say they should be. So talk to us about that moment when people first experience your product and realize that this changes everything for them.
Mm-hmm. So I want to clarify. So we are in the baiting testing aspect of our product. So it's not necessarily available for the public in that sense. But there is a moment in every rewrite session where someone sees their story and they see it not just with vision, they see it with the eye behind the eye. And what I mean by that, it's written out like a script and they physically recoil. And it's like, oh, wow, I've been living like this. And with that awareness, the rewrite happens in real time. So then there's a new identity script that's written, and they feel it. And it's, there's narrative psychology, using the cinematic storytelling framework that I use and customized prompts. It guides you to a series of questions where you see your blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
If you got to reveal it to heal it, you know what I mean? You have to see it to change it. So one woman in particular burst into tears and said, I didn't even realize I was allowed to live like this. And that's it's about self-permission. So that holy smokes moment is when someone realizes in real time the very thing, the very story that has been directing their lives. And then they take the power back and say, I'm taking over as writer, director, storyteller, and star of my own life.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
It's very, very powerful. But let me ask, are there any like disadvantages to that? Like, is finding your true authentic self, could it lead to kind of less fame and success or less money, or could it lead to that? Or do you feel like that authenticity is bigger than what they're currently doing?
Well, I can say that people can have the fame and they can have the success and they can have all the worldly outward trappings and still not be fulfilled. There's a deep ache inside. And so I have found for myself and through the work through Reframe Studios AI that it gives a sense of fulfillment that does not live in the external. It lives in the self-constructed human identity that we rescript through the process, through the protocols. And, we have psychological guardrails and there's ethical considerations. You're dealing with the psyche. You're with people's raw emotions. And so basically we take the raw footage of their life, so to speak, and we reassemble it, reconstruct it in a way that is empowering so that they are elevated and living inside of what's possible. So it's been deeply fulfilling.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And so what about like break it down for the curious listener? How is it all working? Some people think, oh, we got AI and it's just a whole bunch of people typing, or you think about the old school kind of like black and white films or cartoons where but it's kind of going in a hamster wheel. How does it all work? Like, how do you break that all down and increase somebody's vulnerability to get to that real self?
Well, see, it's not me doing it. It's you. It's your original code. So we recalibrate the nervous system in a sense that it's almost as if you're stepping into a movie editing bay, except the movie is your life. And through a series of custom prompts and cinematic frameworks that I've developed working with my artificial intelligence, or like like to say, activated identity, you come to a place where through these large language models and frameworks where you recognize these subconscious patterns, and it's very freeing. And so I think that I always believe this quote: when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And in this, we're both the student and the teacher. So I find that those who come to this work are ready for it. They're thirsty for it. They're hungering. Like I said, there's a blind spot. And who doesn't want to see what you can't see? Because you don't know, you don't know. But oftentimes that script is the one behind the scenes running the show. And it'll make the difference between someone who is in your organization, who is actually a leader, but because it's an old story, an old pattern, an old trauma that says otherwise, you never get the gift of who they are. So that's really what I do on a larger kind of level with organizations and corporations. But on the individual level, it shows up in how you mother, how you parent, how you engage with your social circles and your community. So my mission and goal and my legacy is to remind people of who they are before the world told them otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No, I love that phrase. Now let's talk about. So you gave an earlier example, this jaw dropping moment where one of your customers got teary eyed because they had this revelation. Talk to us about another situation where you were talking to a customer or you were helping someone and you got the chills. You were teary eyed. What was that victory dance? Bring us to that moment so that we can visualize that.
I have two. So I'm thinking of one. This was powerful. And this was a gentleman who had been stuck in a cycle of career sabotage, just a cycle of it. And so we engaged Reframe AI to rewrite this script titled, what was his script? I get close but never win. So he was living inside of that identity, right? Yeah. And through the process of the cinematic framework and the large language model and the prompts and so forth, we reframed it to: I was born to break generational cycles that no man before me could. And the beauty of it was 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from him, and he had partnered with a company that he had been chasing for like 3 or 4 years. So it was huge for him. And he said to me, his words were, he felt that they could feel the new frequency in his pitch, which quite literally they could. And so it was a huge moment because I knew how much he struggled, had been struggling. And for me, it was so affirming for the work that I do, to see the impact that it had on his wife, on their 2 daughters. So it was, and I have 2 daughters. So it was a full circuit moment. And I think what I know to be true is that when you shift your inner script, the world responds accordingly. And that's not hype. That's, it's, I think it's the original code. It's quantum alignment, and it's done intentionally.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. That's absolutely amazing. And there is, we're always taught, or many of us have been taught, that there is power in the tongue and in thought,
Yes.
etc. And so your ability and Reframe Studios AI ability to kind of help turn that cycle. I mean, it was still the same results from his earlier tries, but now it helped with his pitch. That is absolutely amazing.
So we do things equal to the belief that we have about ourselves. Tony Robbins, excellent in that. It's the identity that we construct. And, Dr. Tamara, as you know, with the incredible work that you've done across all verticals, from medicine to, anyone can look at your bio and watch your podcast and see the good that you're putting in the world. But even as I listen to you, have listened to your other podcasts, as people are listening to me, we create pictures in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, just being an executive producer, being an actress, I am constantly curating experiences and pictures for people in their mind. And so why not create the most empowered, best case scenario, not from a place of wishful mandy pandy roses and sprinkles and popcorn flies, but from a real grounded place of possibility, of purpose, and of power. And that's what I think we have access to, especially now with these AI tools.
Yeah. And you exude power and this spirit and this energy. I mean, because we got introduced based off literally an Instagram post that you had. Like, there was I kind of like kept scrolling and I went back and I'm like, oh my God, I need to get her on my podcast.
So happy.
Oh,
and I was telling someone about it. I had an opportunity to be at the AI for my alumni, Howard University. It was a whole panel of really just leaders, titans in the AI space. And I was telling them about you and your podcast. So afterwards we'll connect on that. But yeah, you're doing great work. So
thank you, Caryn. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Now, earlier you mentioned ethics. And talk to us a little bit more about that. I mean, you're dealing with a very powerful tool. You're kind of breaking people up to kind of put them back together, or they are breaking themselves up to put back together to come up with their identity. How do you make sure that you follow this ethical, moral line and still get them to come out of this shell, to talk about and to reshape, past trauma, past successes, and yet keep the human in the loop?
Sure, absolutely. No, I love this. I'm glad you said that. We were talking about this weekend at the Howard University panel about always keeping the human in the loop, because behind every prompt, there is a prompter, and that prompter has a story. So it's keeping that clean. And as I mentioned before, we have built in certain guardrails around this psychological safety. And that's part of why we still are in this beta testing phase, obviously, to make sure that we're adhering to that and keeping in the loop coaching. And I have a third party company that is able to come in and kind of objectively review and look at, obviously privilege and autonomy is of the utmost importance. So that's never compromised. And, the truth of it, identity work is sacred. It's AI is focused a lot on optimization, and here we're dealing with transformation and liberating the self. So I always believe and will maintain that AI is here to serve the human, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. No, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And I think if more people thought about that and had that frame of mind, it would be a lot better. There's so many people who are afraid of it. There are people who are curious. I mean, particularly with booking guests on here, I mean, there are some topics where people are like, oh my God, that's horrible. And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, it's happening. We need to know that it's happening. And the more that we kind of, I don't know if it's called peer pressure, but we encourage each other to use it for good and for human betterment, then the better it'll be.
I absolutely. And we're at an existential crossroads, humanity, across all verticals, from our social political strata to our personal development, to how we're showing up the world, how we're contributing and making money.
Let's talk about the future of Reframe Studio AI. Like, what are the possibilities? Where does the future hold? Where do we see it in terms of, our listeners and what it means to the everyday person?
Great questions. I envision with my kind of mind, I envision where we no longer introduce ourselves by our job titles, or in some cases, unconsciously, our trauma resumes, because a lot of times our trauma precedes us, whether we're conscious of it or not. We'll introduce ourselves by saying, this is who I'm choosing to become. This is who I am. And I see a world where personal growth isn't, just locked behind therapy or on a couch or journaling, which is great. But This is more immediate, and it's a script that reminds us who we're born. And as I mentioned before, it's the intersection of script writing, screenwriting, therapy, and manifestation that's all guided from your own internal knowledge and wisdom, and accessing that in a way that is very specific and unique to you, that it empowers you to step forward in the role that you were born to play.
That's amazing. And you kind of looked down when you made a statement about sometimes our trauma leads, and I went, and for our listeners, I'm over here thinking like, do I lead with any trauma? How would I know if I lead with trauma?
That's a good question. Well, it's insidious. I don't think it's loud. It's a whisper. And sometimes it's not even anything that's external. It's when you're showing up in spaces and feeling less than. You're questioning if you have something to value, or perhaps you aren't setting boundaries in your personal interpersonal relationships, not asking for the raise. So it doesn't have to always be this loud, demonstrative, obvious, my trauma is showing, although some do. But yeah, so it's just, it's not looking at that from a perspective or lens of shame, but looking at it from a place of, wow, I get to hold this, transmute it, and then stand on top of it and stand tall, so.
Yeah. I wanted to ask that question because I think that would be very helpful for our listeners, particularly when they hear people can lead with it. But to your point, it could be silent, it could be muted. And you give a wonderful example that is relatable to many of our listeners because many of them work in corporations, and you're right about not asking for the raise, not asking for the promotion, or the high risk opportunity that can really, propel their career. Not going out on a limb when it comes to entrepreneurship, or being aggressive in terms of getting customers, or going into that lead role because you have been, kind of pigeonholed into a particular character or types of characters.
You are so on it. Yes. That's it. I mean, you said it beautifully. That's so powerfully. And my work inside of Reframe Studios, I work with organizations, and it's called Lights, Camera, Lead. And it's been called the Oscars of organizational strategy, because that's exactly what we deal with. We deal with those who are hiding behind the scenes in the curtain, waiting to take center stage because they have not yet scripted an identity that says, I'm powerful, I have a contribution, and there's real value given when I step forward. So that's what I assist people do. And that works across all verticals, including hospitality, how those show up to serve, entrepreneurs, you said. And we're seeing it not just in the macrocosm, but in the micro, in our living rooms, in our bedrooms, in our families. So it's applicable across the board.
Across the board. Now, I wrote these words down because you mentioned it a couple of times: script writing and screenwriting.
Yes.
One might think that's only applicable to Lights, Camera, Action.
Yes.
TV shows. But are you saying this in the sense of our lives, and script writing and screenwriting in our lives?
Yes, absolutely. I'm saying in the sense as a metaphor. That we all have scripts, meaning as an actor, I take a script and this shows me where I'm going to be, how I'm supposed to feel, and when it happens. And we have those same automatic habits, those beliefs and thoughts that are looping it over and over again about what's possible, how much money you can make, how much love you access, how much success, how much health. And so those are the scripts. Those are the original code. As I mentioned, story is the original code, and reframe, depending on the lens, because it's all about the perspective that you're taking is going to be the life that you live into. If it feels open, accessible, and possible, you're going to move forward. If it feels restricted, dangerous, and harmful, you're going to retreat. And that's all based on the template, the script that's consciously and unconsciously playing.
So, Caryn, you talked about individuals, corporations. Who are your customers? And if I'm listening to this, how do I know that you could be helpful to me?
Right. So Reframe Studios right now is on the personal level. So what we've been talking about, the beta has been working with individuals. I take my protocols from Reframe Studios and I do apply them to organizations. And so there's two ways to access it. It can be at the organizational level. I do a lot of keynote speaking and again, working with companies. And it's also on the individual level. So when we're talking about the gentleman who, had the big breakthrough and he was able to partner with the company he had been chasing for 3 years, that was an individual. We're talking about training employees, leadership roles. That's on the organizational, and that's why I wanted it to be a studio, because there's such verticals by which this is applicable. And thank you for that question. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no, it's very, very helpful. And if I'm a individual and I'm listening to this, how do I know I need to talk to you, that I need your services?
Oh, that's a great question. I think there's a little nudge. I've talked about this on a post. There's a little whisper, and that whisper says, "Is this it? Isn't there something more?" I, you may have, all the trappings, may have the corporate job and title. Is this it? You may have the love, feel so fulfilled in a room full of everyone who loves you, yet you feel so alone. Your body is struggling. You're in pain. You're showing up. You're dressing right, and you play the part, but you feel horrible. So it's an inner knowing. So I trust the process. I trust that, like, as I said before, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Not that I am the student or the teacher. It's you. When you're ready, you will appear for you to show you the next step in your evolution.
Got it, got it. And my network and my listeners, they're pretty high ranking and very influential in corporations. What type of titles do you normally work with? Is it in HR? Is it in training? What are some of the titles that?
Performance coaching, HR, executive leadership. Those are the ones. I've done executive coaching. I've even worked privately, not necessarily the entire organization, but higher VP level, high performance individuals. And so I like to speak to people's power, because we're not, a lot of times we lead with the pain and we have a deficit story. I'm not interested in that. Let's speak and start from your power and then amplify that. So I work with a lot of powerful individuals who are looking to it's kind of like an energetic biohacking. We have a lot of tools to support the body, to optimize it so they can work at its highest peak. And now we're doing that with the mind, the mental, and the psyche. And it's making a difference. Yeah.
Got it. Perfect. Perfect. So you all heard it here. It's that inner whisper to let you know.
Yeah.
You're looking good on the outside, but you got some stuff going on. And it doesn't have to, some people feel like it has to be on their last thread or they're so downtrodden. It doesn't even have to be there. You could be 99%, but there's still something missing. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because, we all know when we're maybe not eating the best, and you're like, you know what, I need to have some roughage.
Right.
There's a little constipation there. So you have a little more salad, or you add some spinach to your smoothie. I like to think of it like that, except it can be deep and profound. So it really is, you enter it at the level that you're ready. So.
Right. Love that. So Reframe Studios AI, make us believers. There are people here listening and was like, well, I have it together. And yes, sometimes I have my moments. But what's one thing our listeners can try, build, explore this week related to Reframe Studios AI to really get a taste of your AI magic?
I love that. I'm going to take it at a slightly deeper level. And I think that I want to encourage those who may be listening to, the little game we used to play where we spot Waldo or find Waldo, or I think that was it. I'm going to encourage you to find the lie. Spot the lie.
Ooh, in your life, the lie in your life.
Yes.
Ooh.
Spot the lie. You know what it is. You know what it is. You can have your come to Jesus moment within yourself. You know what it is. Spot the lie.
Okay.
Yeah. And the beauty of this AI is that it's not here to tell you anything. It just becomes a mirror.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you see yourself more clearly. And it's not necessary for me to direct what happens there. But when you start looking, I do believe that the life that we live is relative to the questions that we ask. So when you start to ask yourself, well, where's the lie? Maybe it's a lie in something that you're doing, in the way that you're showing up in work. Maybe it's a lie in the way that you are not authentically expressing yourself in a relationship. Maybe it's a lie in how you're handling your finances. or the belief that you are saying about yourself because of your finances. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's deep. Wasn't expecting that, but thank you.
Well, I like to deliver the unexpected, and I put a little wiggle room because I come from the arts, but this is the art and the science of you.
Oh my goodness, love that. So as you know, Caryn, we have a from one genius to another question. And so my last guest has a question for you.
Yes.
And that is which everyday task do you think will be automated or eliminated within the next 5 years? And how do you believe people will use their newfound free time?
Great question. So I think that lives in the arena of administrative systems. They're going to be automated. Administrative work, even some of the light, basic legal work. And I think what it's going to give us is deepening our relationships, giving us free time to access those passions, to step into the painting class, to do the things that we don't do. We're bogged down by computers and systems, and really sweeten our conversations, whether it's in the coffee shop, in your living room, or your bedroom. So we're moving from surviving to thriving and connecting. That's what I envision, and that's what I hope for.
Awesome. That's beautiful. I love that. So now let's move to our bonus rapid fire. And I'm going to tell you what it is. You're going to give me the answer. So the first is most overrated tech trend.
Oh, well, I mean, we just kind of talked about it. I think the productivity AI stuff. It's helpful, it's useful, but yeah, I think we're putting a lot of focus on that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about the most underhyped AI or tech trend?
I think emotionally intelligent storytelling prompts.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got a solution. Reframe Studios AI for that.
Okay.
Okay, one book everyone should read on the future or just on life. A book.
I'm going to say The Creative Act by Rick Rubin.
Okay.
Reminds us that AI is a tool, not the muse. So yeah, very, very powerful book on creativity and human innovation. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The boldest AI prediction you believe?
Ooh, you're coming with them. Dr. Steve, I love it. Boldest AI prediction. It lives at the intersection of everything I've been saying, that AI becomes a mirror. It becomes not just our thoughts, but our identities, so that we are rebuilding, recoding ourselves in a way that we've never had access to, because the clarity, the precision, and the power that comes from knowing who you are before the world told you otherwise is nothing like it.
Nothing like it. So, how do we get in contact with you? Tell us all of your social media handles.
Thank you.
After this, I know people are going to want to reach out. So, how do we get in contact?
Absolutely, yes. So I'm Caryn Ward Ross across all my channels. And as you know, it's spelled differently. So it's Caryn with a C, Caryn Ward Ross. I love it because you can't say that fast.
Right. No, you can't.
You got to slow it down. So you can find me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, send me a message. My emails are on my social profile. So yeah, I'd love to connect. I'd love to hear what may have resonated or stirred up in you.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, I actually took notes here. I mean, you dropped so many gold nuggets. I have script writing and screenwriting, but not as we know in terms of productions, but in terms of our life. Spot the lie. That was a big one. It's not where, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Love that one. And then whisper, like whisper, you already know internally.
Yes, yeah.
What's going on. And I just think in life in general, whether we're having these mini collisions with people or experiences, it is that whisper that guides us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just to clarify, and I have to remember who said the quote about when the student is ready, the teacher appears, because it's not mine. So I just want to attribute that. But I think I want to share this, Tamara, as we close out, that we have to remember that we upgrade our phones, we upgrade our computers, we upgrade all of our external technology. So now is the time to upgrade that internal iOS. Is innovation operating seamlessly. That's who we are. Our stories,
I mean, there's nothing else to be said at this point. What a way to end it. I feel so blessed, Caryn, to have you on the show and everything that you're doing. Everyone out there, please, if you have that whisper, if you want, look Caryn up and her wonderful career and all of her accomplishments, but then how she's now taking all of that and helping all of us through Reframe Studios AI. It is truly a blessing and an honor to be able to talk to you, and I really appreciate it, and can't wait to further hear about the future.
Thank you, Tamara. This was so delightful. I am so fulfilled, and we've got more to do together, you and I. So This was just the beginning.
Absolutely. It's just the beginning.
I'm excited. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
And thank you for being on. Okay. All right. Till next time, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Lead with AI. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the cutting-edge innovations shaping AI across the public and private sectors. Until then, keep leading with AI.